Josh Haston here, Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is the 28th of October, 2018. Thank you so much for joining us. Get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com, on Facebook, Joshua Haston, and on Twitter at Josh Haston. And it is with a heavy heart that we are broadcasting to you. I'm here in Gush Etzion, Israel. 11 Jews murdered at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill, a suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on Shabbat morning. And Jews around the world are in mourning over this horrible, horrible tragedy. A white supremacist, a gunman, entering the synagogue as they were performing a Brit Milah, bringing a baby into the fold, into Judaism. And yet a deranged gunman walks into the synagogue, starts firing, goes downstairs into the hall where the Brit Milah is being held, murders 11 Jews. So that's where we are now, Sunday night, and a lot of things we don't know at this point. The names of the victims have just been released here. It is again Sunday night Israel time, and we have all of the names. We'll get to them in the second half of the show, but right now we want to go to Pittsburgh. Joel Kaplan, he's a native of Pittsburgh, actually lives in Jerusalem. He is joining us from Pittsburgh. He was there over the weekend, and we appreciate his time. Joel Kaplan, thanks so much for joining us here on Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.
Thank you, Josh, and to all of your listeners.
If you can, just describe the mood, if that's a silly question, I apologize, there in the Jewish community of Pittsburgh after this horrible, horrible murderous attack.
Well, to be honest, I'm more aware of the mood inside one of the hospitals inside of Pittsburgh because attending to a ailing father. And I think, like with most people happens, everybody has to kind of stop their own life to the extent that they can and be part of the community. But in this case, I haven't been able to so much be outside part of the community, so I'm more aware of what's happening in the mood, in the hospital with family members who are visiting their family members, and also some of the chaplain staff here at the hospital. And I can say that, the mood here is people look at each other with very sad hearts and sad eyes and sense of compassion and deep pain and shock and everywhere. I mean, I've been in many different venues here in Pittsburgh over the last 24 hours, from Orthodox synagogue to seeing the scene in downtown Pittsburgh last night. I was working in a more of a social environment to being in this hospital, and I can say in every place there's just a sense of it's Tidom Aaron. It's a silence. It's a silence, and people try to speak and can't. And
we can hear it. We can hear it in your voice clearly. I just want to clarify: you are actually in one of the facilities, one of the hospitals where some of the wounded from the attack were being treated. Is that accurate?
In Pittsburgh, there's all the hospitals are connected. It's the University of Pittsburgh Medical System. Those the wounded were brought to other facilities that are part of the network close by. All Pittsburgh is a pretty small town, so all within 10 or 15 minute drive of each other. But as far as I know, none of the wounded were brought here.
So tell us, if you can, you grew up in Pittsburgh. I mean, Squirrel Hill, it's a neighborhood I actually know. I spent many weekends in NCSY youth group visiting Pittsburgh, visiting Squirrel Hill. Actually, it was my favorite place to visit of all the different cities in the region there. A beautiful, beautiful neighborhood, great people, friendly people. I only have positive experiences from Pittsburgh. I mean, is that the kind of community you felt growing up in that neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, as a lot of people know, Pittsburgh's a very special place because all of the streams of Judaism are very well represented here for more than decades, for probably a century. Since the beginning of Pittsburgh, there was always a very strong Orthodox presence, always a very strong reform and conservative presence, and in the last 20, 25 years, a very strong progressive presence. And I also remember growing up conservative, some sleepovers at the Tree of Life and some events there with some of the other groups around Pittsburgh. We've had some family events there, and I'm familiar with all of the people and the rabbis that are on international news.
I understand this is difficult. I just wanted to, and I think you described it well. I'll move on. The neighborhood of Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh.
Because even in living in Israel, it's like you feel Shar Chesed. There's Emek Rafaim, and it's similar to like that in Pittsburgh, where all the Jews are always passing each other on the streets. So from Chabad to the Reform, they're shopping in the same places and passing each other's synagogues. And so this has really affected, of course, the whole community, and it's an opportunity to show solidarity in the midst of the pain.
Right, and I understand. Again, it is Sunday night here in Israel as we are speaking to Joel Kaplan, who is in Pittsburgh. From what I understand, there's going to be a community-wide vigil or rally taking place later today. Do you have any idea what is on the agenda in terms of who's going to be speaking, who's going to be hosting it? Is it specifically for the Jewish community? Is it for the greater Pittsburgh community? I know right now the Pittsburgh Steelers, as we're speaking, are playing, and there was a moment of silence before the game, recognizing those who were murdered there in Squirrel Hill. What can you expect from the rally, which is set to take place, I believe, sometime in the afternoon Pittsburgh time, late at night here in Israel, just in a couple of hours?
So I've heard that that the rally is going to be at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial here in Oakland at the University of Pittsburgh, and I have not seen the itinerary or who the speakers are. I had heard that Naftali Bennett might be on his way over, and I had heard everything. I haven't actually had a chance to verify everything because I'm just attending to more important things.
Right.
So I'm just. There are probably more people with more updated information than me. I've heard that the president is going to speak somewhere in Squirrel Hill and possibly at the synagogue. Mm-hmm. But anything I say could potentially be just hearsay because I haven't had a chance to verify things. In terms of the football game, they zoomed in before the opening kick on the Shalom sign, and all of the players, all the flags are at half-mast, and seeing professional football players with their heads bowed, Jewish and Christian alike. It really does show that these events affect us all as humans at this point in time in history. And broadcasts like that go out to millions and millions of people, and there's clearly a process going on here. I mean, I said to somebody this morning, there are more Christian Americans that come to Israel, sadly, than Jewish Americans. And they're very serious about love, and we share a common tradition of love our neighbor as ourselves. And that's in talking with the chaplains here at the hospital, that's a message that especially in today's day and age, when everyone focuses on the one person who somehow got themselves so isolated from society that they couldn't reach out in a more constructive way, and that society somehow was not able to reach in to a person like this. It's really a teaching for all of us to really every single day, remind ourselves, take that mitzvah upon ourselves to love our neighbor as ourselves. And when I said that to one of the pastor chaplains here at the hospital, he said, we all seem to know that. It's just, how do we do it? And I think that, part of what we need to remember in our davening and is that with all the words that we have to say, how do we take that into our hearts and be a light to the nations and remember that? And I think that last night at the vigil at the corner of Forbes and Murray, where has been a place for Jews for a century, to see all of the young generation, knowing that one of the synagogues there is called Dor Chadash, come together, do a Havdalah ceremony for really the whole world to see with. Okay, so now I'm crying. I was very touched to see that young generation singing songs that we've heard the melodies in camp, and reaching out to some of those ideals of our prophets, that they will come when nation will not rise up against nation, individual will not rise up against individual, and all the world will live in peace. And then, to hear them sing the rendition of Matisyahu's One Day song, and they asked them to bring out their phones, those are the ideals that I think every healthy, aware, conscious human being wants. And for the ones who are, not yet there, that's up to the healthy ones to extend that invitation to the unhealthy ones. And if they can't come across to be healthy, then hopefully get them the resources that they can and get them into the care that they clearly need. And it's very hard to do, because we see what's probably going to happen to this man who, in the next few years or something, justice will take its toll. But there is already talk about that kind of penalty. Speaking a little bit fragmented here now, but and to see this whole generation singing One Day, it captures those ideals that every Jew, whether they're growing up conservative, Orthodox, progressive, Reform, and I'm going to say it too, and the Christian, go to the Christian youth camps and try to learn the teachings of love your neighbor as yourself. And we have to reach out to those people that are disconnected and unfranchised and bring them in. And the ones that have problems, psychological problems, they need, care. They need to be hospitalized, and somebody needs to be attending to them. And that's, I think, one day there will be that level where these events don't happen. And the thing with the media is that, it's focusing now on this individual. And I just hope that the media can also focus on, the hundreds of thousands of random acts of kindness that are going on also, all the time. And as they analyze, whether it was a political vitriol that, feeds that type of action, which certainly it is, and that politicians want to counter that type of divisive vitriol, so that the politicians aren't feeding into those people's heads, but balancing it with an enlightened viewpoint of what humans need to be able to do each and every day and each and every moment. And certainly in America, where hundreds of millions of people speak the same language, we should be able to do it here. It's difficult in Israel because of the Arab Hebrew divide, and sometimes people can have good intentions, but the language makes it difficult to develop that rapport. But here in America, everyone should be able to reach out to people in our common English language and try to transform people's hearts and get to the root of the problem, and understand that there's not just one root, that there's a multi-causal thing. And I guess that's why all the analysts are on TV figuring out what happened, is they need to involve, the NRA, and guns like this, there's no real use for them when they get in the hands of the wrong people. There's only one purpose for that type of weapon, and there's no reason why that type of weapon should ever be in the hands of someone like this. So there many aspects to this, but as you see the candles burning on Shabbos and Havdalah, and I saw the Sabbath, the Havdalah, wick, showing that we are individual souls united into a common soul. The hope is in the generations to come, that these same mistakes won't keep getting made. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain for the people.
I can hear it in your voice, Joel.
I'm personally not in pain, but I can feel the people that have gone through what they've just gone through. My heart just goes out to them.
We're going to end here on that note, and I want the listeners really to take to heart everything you just said. As we are speaking now, there's a vigil going on in downtown Jerusalem and soon in Pittsburgh, and whether you're a Jew here, whether you're a Jew there, this affects us all. This has an impact on us all. A very difficult day. But I know it was very difficult for you, and I could hear it in your voice, but I really want to thank you, Joel, for coming on the show. I want to, let's all be strong, and whatever it is that you're going through medically with a member of your family, I believe you said it was your father, may he have a refuah shlema, And let's only hear good things, whether it's in Pittsburgh, whether it's in the south of the country, which we're going through right now. We'll talk about it later in the show, on the Gaza border and everything going on there. We're all Jews, and we all have to unite, as you said. And let's only hear good things, Joel. Have a safe trip back to Israel whenever it is that you do come back, and I really, really appreciate it on this very difficult day.
Thank you. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad.
Amen. We're going to take a break, folks. There's a lot more to talk about. I want to get to the names of the victims in the second half of the show, and then we got to talk about everything going on in southern Israel. Friday night, I barely got any sleep because of the Tzeva Dome, the code red, going off every few minutes. You can only imagine those who are actually under rocket fire down in southern Israel. So we'll talk about that and much, much more, including more from the tragedy in Pittsburgh, Squirrel Hill, Pennsylvania. This is Josh Haston, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Get in touch with me during the week. Josh at thelandofisrael.com on Facebook. It's Joshua Haston, and on Twitter at Josh Haston. Thank you so much to Benjamin Bresky for all the work he does in getting these shows produced and for bringing Joel on the program. We're going to take a short break and be right back.
Ours is an almost biblical generation of suffering and courage, said Menachem Begin. Ours is a generation of destruction and redemption. Ours is the generation that rose up from the bottomless pit of hell. Well, history didn't place me in that generation, but God gave me the gift of telling their tale, because I'm Rav Mike Feuer, and this is The Jewish Story.
Listen to The Jewish Story with Rav Mike Feuer on thelandofisrael.com.
Josh Haston here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is October 29th, 2018, the 20th of Cheshvan, 5779. This is actually the second part of the show. The first part of the show was recorded last night. And for those of you who missed it, and we're now also live on Facebook, if you missed the first part of the show, go back and listen to the interview I did with Joel Kaplan. Joel Kaplan lives in Jerusalem, but he's a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he was in Pittsburgh over the weekend. A very emotional interview that he gave describing the situation there in Squirrel Hill. That was the first part of the show, which I recorded last night. Right now, it is Monday morning, and the names of the victims have been released, so I want to recognize them to start the show. Of blessed memory, Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, Irving Younger. Of blessed memory, may God avenge their blood, those who were murdered in a brutal attack in Pittsburgh and Squirrel Hill at the Tree of Life Synagogue over the weekend. So that obviously is top story around the world for us Jews. And listen, you know, I've seen the rhetoric on Twitter, on social media, people blaming the U.S. administration, people blaming others as well. Some really sick posts on Twitter, which I've seen over the last 24 hours, somehow blaming Israel, blaming the fact that the U.S. embassy was moved to Jerusalem. That's why the Pittsburgh attack happened. Lashing out at Naftali Bennett, who's the Minister of Diaspora Affairs and Education, who traveled immediately to the U.S., lashing out at him, asking who bothered, who invited you, why are you coming? All kinds of hate directed not at this sick Nazi who carried out the attack, the white supremacist neo-Nazi, but directed and blaming so many others, in some cases blaming the victims, blaming Israel, who knows what. A lot of sick stuff going on, unfortunately, on Twitter. And people want to know how to respond. People want to know what has to happen next. And listen, we are Jews, and that is the bottom line, okay? This has been going on for over 3,000 years. This is nothing new. Pittsburgh isn't anything new. We've been the target of attacks for over 3,000 years, starting with Egypt all the way till today. So don't think all of a sudden this is a new phenomenon, and don't think, that it's because of President Trump. I have a list here from the JTA of 4 other recent shootings targeting Jewish communities, whether in Los Angeles, whether in Seattle, whether at the Holocaust Memorial Museum, whether in Overland Park, at the JCC shooting in Kansas before Trump. So you want to pin it on Trump, go ahead and pin it on Trump, whether you like him or hate him. This is a 3,000-year-old problem. That is what we're dealing with here. Okay, so you need sorry about that, the phone fell. You need to keep, hold on. You need to keep it real. you need to wake up and stop pointing fingers at those in charge in this day and age as if this is something new. This is going to happen. If you are Jewish, you are a target. You need to realize that. You need to recognize that reality. If you are Jewish, you are a target. You need to stay vigilant. Wherever you are in the world, whether it's here in Israel, whether it's in Pittsburgh, anywhere in the world, if you're Jewish, you must stay vigilant. And that really is the bottom line. Would guards have helped? Probably. Was that the ultimate and only solution? Probably not. But you have to stay vigilant. I saw some of these people, some mayors of different cities, saying, we don't want to live like that. We don't want to live with guards in front of our temples, in front of our churches. Ladies and gentlemen, you are living in a post-9/11 world where, unfortunately, that's the reality. That's been the reality here in Israel for many, many years. It's sad, but it's true. Those who are trained with arms, those who know how to protect, those who are stationed outside of synagogues and nursery schools and malls and movie theaters, they're there for a reason. That isn't the only solution. But to say, we don't want that to be our reality, then go back to the 1950s. Go back to a pre-9/11 world. That is our reality today, whether you like it or not. So anyway, I'm going to turn off the Facebook Live now, rather, and I'm going to do the rest of my show. I'm going to talk about Gaza and talk about other things going on here in Israel. So check out my full show, including the interview with Joel Kaplan and the other things going on in the news here in Israel and news affecting Jews around the world. It'll be up in a few hours here on my Facebook page. It'll be up on the landofisrael.com's Facebook page. It'll be up on Twitter. It'll be up on SoundCloud, iTunes, all of these different places you can hear the full show. So wishing everyone a peaceful Monday, only good things. Stay vigilant out there. You're Jewish, you're a target. It's that simple. Stay vigilant. Everybody be safe. We'll take a short break, and I'm going to turn off the Facebook. Check out the rest of the show later on today. So when I said short break, I was talking about the fact that I was going to turn off the Facebook Live. And for those who were watching, I apologize. I don't know what happened or why it came out sideways. But Zem Mashiesh, as they say in Hebrew, that's what happened. I apologize for that. But if you missed any part or any part of the show, go back, listen to the interview with Joel Kaplan and my take on the fact that, this has been going on for over 3,000 years, that Jews have been targeted. I said it before, I'll say it again. You stay vigilant. You prepare for this. It's nothing new. It's not a result of Donald Trump or the administration or anything else other than the fact that we are Jews, and this is our destiny. And what we need to do, as my good friend Mark Provisor always says, is ensure that there are no more Jewish victims. So if you want to find out more about that and that campaign, No More Jewish Victims, get in touch with me. But we're going to move now to Gaza. Friday night, the ringer on the phone next to my bed was not turned off, and therefore 41 red alerts Friday night as different terror groups in Gaza, whether it was Islamic Jihad or other groups, fired 37 rockets into Israel. And somehow, not just because of Pittsburgh, and I'm not saying that, one story, obviously a mass murder of 11 people is top story, But somehow on Sunday, just did not feel like Gaza was in the news. It's like, oh, another night of rockets being fired. That is just the way and the attitude that I felt that people had on Sunday, despite the fact that our brothers and sisters on the Gaza border were up all night running to the shelters. And it's mind-boggling. Again, it's been going on since 2001 when the rockets started. It's nothing new. But just to give you the latest here, reported by the Jerusalem Post in today's paper, IDF aircraft struck a terror cell of 3 that attempted to infiltrate the southern border on Sunday night. And those 3 individuals were killed. And now, of course, the other side is saying that Israel deliberately targeted minors along the Gaza border. Now, first of all, what if they were young people? What were they doing there? What were they planting explosive devices on the Gaza border? Of course, demonstrations held in Gaza last night, calling for blood, calling to avenge the blood. There was fear today that more rockets would be launched. And these really brave souls of evil souls in Hamas and the other terror groups sending their kids to plant explosives on the border while they hide behind them. And this is what you get. And then the world, not everyone, but many in the world community turn around and blame Israel for killing kids. That's how the story goes down. And these were teens sent to plant explosives on the border. So that's what happened over the last 24, 48 hours. Apparently now we have the 100th ceasefire between Israel and terror groups, specifically in this case Islamic Jihad, brokered by Egypt down there. Hamas told Israel, this also reported by the J-Post, that it would halt the violence in Gaza, around Gaza, in exchange for $15 million in cash. So they want us to pay them off, pay the protection money to Hamas, $15 million, and they'll stop with the Friday riots and the rocket attacks and whatnot. Our prime minister says, get lost, essentially, to Hamas. Says we won't pay them off. But what bothers me is the fact that this morning, if you check out my Facebook page, those living down by the Gaza border protested the fact that dozens and dozens of trucks are still entering, Israeli trucks are entering into Gaza, providing tons and tons of humanitarian aid, building materials. I saw it myself. I saw the videos and the pictures into Gaza. Even though they're continuing to try to infiltrate our borders and murder our civilians, Israel is enabling Hamas. It's that simple. Whether somebody's getting rich off the deal, which I believe to be the case, somebody's got to be benefiting. It's not for free. Somebody's got to be benefiting from these building materials. Somebody's got to be paying for these truck drivers to bring in building materials from their companies, from the manufacturing plants. Somebody's getting rich off the deal, and Hamas is seizing this humanitarian aid, using the materials not to build schools and hospitals, but to manufacture terror tunnels and to continue to send rockets over into Israel. So it is disgusting. It is abhorrent. The situation where men, women, and especially children have to live under rocket fire and incendiary balloons while somebody's getting rich, and we are enabling Hamas. I've said it a million times. Stop with the humanitarian aid. Turn off the electricity. Let them know. Say, we are going to turn off the electricity as long as you continue to do this. And I would say even further, I would say until Hamas is gone, let the people overthrow Hamas. If they see how miserable their lives are with no electricity, no running water, call it whatever you want. You call it collective punishment. I say it's collective punishment that men, women, and children in Israel have to worry and consider whether or not they need to be within the range of a bomb shelter just to go to the supermarket. That's collective punishment. So I say, again, turn off the electricity. Don't send any troops into Gaza. Let's not fight a battle against Hamas and then turn the place over to Mahmoud Abbas, the terrorist from Fatah. Turn off the electricity. You want to make it Egypt's problem? Make it Egypt's problem. Stop enabling Hamas. Let the people realize it's their leadership that has caused them to go astray It's caused their suffering. And let the people of Gaza overthrow Hamas. Then we can sit, and then we can talk about things, okay? I mean, one day, please God, we'll rebuild Gush Katif in Gaza. Ask if anybody's willing to tell you the truth on how much life was better for the residents, the Arabs living in Gaza when Gush Katif was there. They can't speak about it, but that is the reality. So enough enabling the terrorists, enough sending this aid. Actually, this morning, people were trying to block, at least symbolically, trying to block the trucks entering the Kerem Shalom crossing into Gaza. We have to stop providing them with fuel and all this other equipment, which just ends up literally blowing up in our faces. Again, we're just going to conclude with some amazing positive news here. I always try to end the show with some positive news. Hatikva, Israel's national anthem, played for the first time in the United Arab Emirates as an Israeli judoka wins gold. Reported also by the Jerusalem Post on Sunday after an Israeli, this is a judo competition, Israeli judoka Sagi Muki defeated his opponent from Belgium in the Judo Grand Competition in Abu Dhabi, winning the gold medal. For the first time ever, they played the Hatikva. Culture and Sports Minister Mary Regev was in attendance. She said the following: "We made history, Am Yisrael Chai," and she openly wept as Israel's national anthem was played at the awards ceremony. This has never happened before in a Gulf country. Usually they hoist, when an Israeli wins, they hoist a neutral banner, or the banner of representing the competition leadership, or whatever organization it is sponsoring the event. But for the first time, Hatikva, Israel's national anthem, played there in Abu Dhabi. So despite all this horrible news, despite Pittsburgh and Gaza and all the bad stuff, all was good to end with something positive here on Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. That is going to do it for today. Let's hope for some better news this week. Big shout out to Benjamin Bresky for all the work he does, especially getting the interview last night with Joel Kaplan from Pittsburgh. Also, Tabitha Epstein, thank you for all the work that you do. Get in touch with me during the week. Josh at thelandofisrael.com. On Facebook, it's Joshua Haston, and on Twitter at Josh Haston. Most importantly, as I broadcast here from Gush Etzion, the beauty amongst the beautiful rolling hills of Judea. Most importantly, between now and when we speak again next week, everybody out there, stay vigilant and be safe. Shalom, shalom from Israel.
It's much more real than any reality show. It's much more dramatic than any drama. It's much more funny than any comedy. It's like a game show, but it's no game. It's our lives.
Listen to Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman, political correspondent for the Jerusalem Post, every week on the Land of Israel.